My honest advice to someone struggling to lose belly fat. In 2024, a majority of the people know how to lose belly fat. Caloric deficit, high protein diet, resistance training, walking. But if everyone knows, why do 93% of people still fail at doing it? Well, the truth is that you're part of the 93% and it's not your fault. You're just not being shown the full picture. And I was part of that 93% until I finally discovered these 4 simple keys, which allowed me to unlock my diamond form, allowing me to easily move into that 7%. And I finally got lean, and I could do it again and again and again. And I put these 4 keys to the test with my own clients. Dwayne, at 80 years young, reached his diamond form. Dominic, at 60 years young, hit his diamond form. Sandra, who lost over 50 pounds, reached her diamond form. Harry, Shannon, Tori, Gary, all of the thousands of clients I've worked with, all of them reached their diamond form, getting between 10 to 15% body fat sustainably and staying there. These 4 keys are not what you expect. It's nothing like anyone is talking about on YouTube because it's not the new sexy thing. And I highly recommend you watch till the end because key number 4 is the most important. I want you guys to picture a map. Right? Picture a treasure map, and you are at this point and you need to reach X. So just keep that in your mind. The first question I have ever asked anybody before they decide to work with me is, what's the motivation behind this? And I've spoken to maybe 10,000 people by now in the 10 years who've stopped me in the streets and that I speak to who want to work with Sculpt by Science. And this is the major decider of who I know I can help and who I cannot. The answer of the people that I cannot help, their answer usually sounds like this. This is my why. Hey Mike, I just want to get into shape before summer, or I just want to see my 6-pack and I want to just get to that point. And let me compare the clients I do work with and the ones who 100% get the results. Hey Mike, I had a health scare and it is time that I make a change because if not, I'm not going to be around longer. Or Mike, I'm having a difficult time with my wife at the moment and she's not attracted to me. This has to change. Or I've had a client also come on the phone and say when they truly discovered their why was that their building actually caught on fire and he had to grab his 2 kids and make his way down the stairs. And when he made his way down the stairs, he passed out and he realized that I may have not saved my kids under those conditions. And those 2 people that I just described to you have very different foundations. They have a very clear why of what they're doing. And this is why it's so important. Because in this journey between where you are and your X, you're going to overcome peaks and valleys. You're going to get to roadblocks. You're going to face challenges that are going to make you not want to reach X. That's going to make you quit. And it's when you have to think about your why, it's when you'll make the very difficult decision of should I do it and shouldn't I? And this is why so many people give up. So many people know what they need to do, but they don't do it, or they fail at doing it because whenever they're faced with an obstacle, they don't know what to do next. So this is what I highly recommend you do. You don't necessarily have to have some life-changing event happen. Just to give you an example of my own. My mom hasn't been in amazing shape, high blood pressure, and I said, hey, let me help you lose weight. This is what my company does. And she's a Latina mom. She's very proud. And she was like, no, I just send me to a personal trainer. I just want to start with a personal trainer. And I personally felt offended because I was like, wow, she doesn't trust me. But my wife explained, hey, maybe she wants to try on her own. And we did a blood test for her about 2 months ago. And that's where I said enough is enough. And I explained to her that she's actually dealing with metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, high fasting glucose, her waist size is too large. She is also pre-diabetic, all the things that indicate someone could suffer a heart attack. She had high risk of a heart attack. And that my fear for her is she may not be around for me and my sister much longer or as long as she could be. And that would destroy me. And when she realized that, when we had that very life-altering conversation, to this point right now, 2 months later, working with us at Sculpt by Science, she's down 10.5 kgs as of this moment. I think even 10.9. She finally found her why, and her why was her kids. So this is what you guys should do. And do this exercise. Take a paper and write down why you want to lose your belly fat. Why do you want to reach your diamond form? And write it line by line. What are the benefits? If it's religion, if it is going to be your wife, your kids, what are the true things that will happen to you if you finally reach your destination X? Worst case scenario, you realize that your foundation, your key number one, is very weak and it's not going to allow you to unlock. For those of you who don't have a strong why, that's not a problem, not to worry. You can always create it. So whys I've created myself included a competition. You guys have seen me compete many times, and that gave me a very strong sense of why. I didn't want to not show up. I didn't want to be embarrassed. And maybe it's a challenge amongst your family. Sometimes getting into these 90-day transformation challenges can be a very good why. Or you have a wedding, or you decide with your wife or your partner you're going to book a holiday and you want to be in the best shape of your life. But depending on where you fall on the spectrum will determine if you have a very strong foundation to why you're going to do what you're doing. So whenever someone puts a drink in your face, or whenever someone says, hey, you should eat this cake, or when you want to do something that goes against your ultimate goal, it'll be very easy for you to overcome those objectives. And this is the big thing with our company, is that when we feel that the person has clarity of why, most of the job's already done. I want you guys to do me a favor, and to do everyone watching this a favor. Go in the comments and tell me what was your why that allowed you to see success. So what was it that made you realize, hey, I needed to do this, and what was the result you got? And I feel that this will inspire a lot of people because it will finally show them true, real examples outside of me of what it was that they needed to accept to finally see the result. And if you find that this video will be valuable to someone, leave it with a like, because this may be the video people need to see that change the world from everyone being in the 93% category and moving on into the 7%. Let's make it 50-50, right? Let's make it everyone who just needs to decide if they want to do it now or later, versus most people failing and wasting their time. And my goal at Sculpt by Science is to keep people healthier, longer, to be younger, and to move faster with their family through their life. And if you want me to help you with that and my company at Sculpt by Science, there is a link in the description. You can apply to work with us, and that's if you want, but I'll see you guys. Let's move on into the next one. So now that's the second one. It's the discipline of how. So now we have an understanding of why we're doing this. Let's picture Jim. And Jim is doing this because he wants to be able to play with his kids at 70 years old, and he knows he needs to take action at 40. Now, to get to X, Jim has to decide, what car am I going to use? What vehicle am I going to go into? And that's everything to do with the discipline of how. So the discipline of how is whatever rules you set yourself that you're always going to follow no matter what. At the very foundation, the very simple one is, hey, I will walk 10,000 daily steps. When I wanted to lose belly fat in the past, before I knew what I knew, I actually made a religious commitment, right? I went through Lent, very similar to Ramadan, and I said, I will not eat out anymore. I made that commitment to God, and I was like, I'm not going to eat out anymore for the entirety of Lent, and I lost weight. And that was my discipline of how. I just said I'm not going to eat out. And it can be as simple as that for you. Just make sure you stay disciplined. Your discipline may be, okay, let's take that a step further. I'm going to walk 10,000 daily steps. Or you may decide, hey, I'm going to follow Dr. Mike's formula to build muscle and lose fat, which is a high protein diet, 30 to 50 grams, multiplied by caloric deficit and resistance training. And those may be the things you decide of, okay, this is what I'm going to do every day. And you may fail one day, but you pick yourself back up. And to utilize the analogy and the reference from James Clear from Atomic Habits, his rule is never fail 2 times in a row. If you fail today, pick yourself up back the next day. And that's a fantastic way to go about it. So at a very fundamental level, you could say, okay, I'm not going to eat out for this entire 16 weeks. I will do 10,000 daily steps. I'll resistance train 3 times a week, and I will track my food at least once and eat the same food. That is going to be your how, and you're going to be disciplined with that each and every single day. What we do at Sculpt by Science that makes it easier for our clients is we figure out their how. In some cases, we get people who do low carb. In some events, we get people who just focus on intermittent fasting as their how. And this is one thing I want you guys to realize, is that people around you may not know that you cheat on your how, but you're gonna know. And once you failed yourself, in the back of your mind, you're gonna fail yourself over and over again. And my advice to you is get back on the horse. And I want you guys to think of your how as your hammer and chisel to reach your diamond form. Every day you tick the boxes of your how, you're hitting one more stroke on that chisel with your hammer, and you're getting one step closer to your diamond form. A simple way to also think of your discipline of how, all you need to decide is that, hey, am I going to tick these things each and every single day? And the truth is, because you have a poor clarity of why, whenever your discipline of your how is challenged, when the weekend comes and alcohol is there, when someone invites you out, or when you have to go to an event or a wedding, those disciplines and those whys, your how and why is always challenged, and it's up to you to make a decision. And even with my clients, when they are traveling or in a difficult situation, I give them a how. I call it the mechanical rules of fat loss. Fasting, 10,000 steps, eat protein first. I give them a list of what they can order at the restaurant, and then I tell them that they need to sleep 8 hours, no matter what. So as long as you're following your how and you're disciplined with it, you will be fine. You'll do great. And number 3 is consistency of what? Directly from the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Everything you say and everything you do has to prove what you believe. A why is just a belief. That's all it is. How are all the actions you take to realize that belief? And what are the results of those actions? And to relate to this and why this really does apply, another popular author, James Clear, has the same foundation, but his is identity, right? You need to change your identity, which is the people's why, relating to Simon Sinek. The next layer of behavior changes process, which is equivalent to Simon Sinek's how. And then the outermost is the outcome, which is what. So what outcome are you going for each and every single day, and are you being consistent with that outcome? And that should be the final thing you focus on. It is as a result of the foundational keys that you're using, key 1 and key 2, that will give you key 3, right? So I want you guys to think of, am I consistently doing the things I need to do to get the outcome that I so desire? And that is going to be the best way that I can explain it to you guys. And you want to have some sort of tool to measure if you're getting the outcome you desire and if you're being consistent with it. And if you guys repeat with these 3 main keys each and every single day and you follow them, your diamond form is only time away. This is why we have a 99% success rate. It's because as a company, we first focus on the why of the person, and we keep on changing their how to make sure that they keep on following this entire process. And the 4th one, guys, and to me and my personal one, the most important is your time. So in the decade that I've been doing this, time is going to be the biggest factor of if you're going to be successful or not. Let me explain. The people who want to see the result in a week or in a month are usually the people who make the biggest mistakes. So the people I've spoken to who wanted it immediately actually ended up opting for surgery, or they did a balloon stent, or they did something quite drastic. And usually the people who don't give themselves enough time actually end up reverting back, and those things that they didn't end up working because they gave themselves such little time. To a lesser extent, you get guys who want to lose it in 2 months and they start doing something like completely cutting out carbs, so a low carb diet. In some events, people love to do keto or follow any of these quick fixes, and they may work in the short term, but they never reach their diamond form. Because remember, reaching your diamond form is being between that 10 to 15% sustainably, that you know, hey, I'm here now and actually I can do this every day. So usually when you do these harsh juice cleanses or you cut out an entire food group, the likelihood you can do that for the rest of your life is very little. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, the clients I've worked with, including myself, who gave themselves enough time. They said, hey, and they were specific about their time. It's not like they left it open-ended. They said, I'm gonna give myself 4 months. Or hey, Mike, I need to lose 80 pounds, 100 pounds like Harry. give me an entire year. Or Sandra, who lost 50 pounds, said, hey, I'm gonna take 6 months or more, but let's first focus on the first 6 months. Those people got the best results because they understood and they accepted how much time it was gonna take. And it allowed them to make mistakes, and it allowed them to pick themselves back up. But as long as they stuck to the 3 first keys, they were going to reach the result no matter what. And with our experience, the clients who were realistic about how much time it was going to take were always going to get the result. They didn't become discouraged. They didn't just give up. They actually followed the process so much better because they weren't under pressure, which sometimes isn't the best if you're finally trying to lose your belly fat and getting to your diamond form sustainably. To have long-term fat loss requires time. And I tell people all the time, you didn't get fat in 2 months. You got fat over a year, 2 years, 3 years. So why don't you give yourself a year, 2 years, and 3 years to become unfat? And that's the truth. Be very realistic about how much time it requires. My general rule is we don't want to lose more than 1% of your body weight per week, because then you start dealing with the adverse effects: extreme hunger, low energy, fatigue. But just make sure that on average, it gets to 1% per week. And that is my honest advice to someone. Number one, a quick recap: have a real reason you're doing this. Don't just do it for a shallow reason. And if you don't have a real reason at the moment, that's okay, because at least you're not going to say to yourself, it doesn't work, it didn't work for me. Because the reality is that you had a shallow reason and you gave up too soon and you didn't have strong purpose. The second thing you should do is make a contract with yourself and say, this is how I'm going to do it, right? And agree how long it's going to take. Write it down. Hey, and on day January 1st, I'm 200 pounds. By April 1st, I want to be 180 to 185 pounds, and be very specific. 3, do those things consistently and you will get your outcome. And then 4, make sure you give yourself a realistic amount of time. Outside of that, maybe you're in that small group of people who still don't have the information necessary to see success. I'm gonna give you 5 videos in the description of this video that will give you the how, the different hows that I utilize. And just watch that and you're 16 weeks away. But I'll leave it here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.